Lord be with you, and a warm welcome to you from all of us here at Powers Court with Kilbride.
Surely it's a blessing to be rich, to be filled, to be satisfied, to never hunger again, to have everything we want, including joy. But Jesus begs to differ.
There is a place that is deeply embedded in the very heart of each one of us that cannot be touched by the world, particularly by the world of extravagance, by the world of riches, by the world of satisfaction with all the material goods that we can have. It's a place that Jesus knows well exists within us, and it is a place that is truly blessed.
Good morning, dear brothers and sisters. Here is the Gospel of our Saviour Christ according to St. Luke, chapter 6, beginning at verse 17. Jesus came down with the 12 and stood on a level place, with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. They had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases, and those who were troubled with unclean spirits were cured. And all in the crowd were trying to touch him, for power came out of him and healed all of them. Then he looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice on that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven. For that is what their ancestors did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is what their ancestors did to the false prophets. This is the gospel of the Lord."
A gentleman by the name of Bryce Courtney was born in South Africa as an English child in 1933. Among the many books that he has written, he wrote a book called The Power of One, which became a movie. Bryce had a very hard start and beginning to his life. Living in South Africa, his father was killed by a rogue elephant, and his mother suffered a type of a nervous breakdown as a result of his father's death and was put into an institution in those days. At the age of 6, and in the care of a Zulu nanny, Bryce was sent off to boarding school. As a little English boy among Boer boys, his life was not easy. The other boys picked on him, and particularly so because Bryce used to wet the bed every night. The boys used to be asked to bring Bryce's mattress down, to carry it down into the sun to dry every day, and you can imagine how much they abused him as a result of this, how much they picked on him and bullied him. And as if this wasn't bad enough, at night time they would waken him. They formed a type of a kangaroo court. They would bring him down, they would tie rags around his eyes, and they would carry out a mock trial, punishing him at the end with the type of punishment that fit the crime. They would make him crouch down on the ground and they would urinate on him. By the time half term came, Bryce ran back to the only person he was left with who he could trust, his Zulu nanny, and outspilled his heart. He cried and he cried and he cried because of the way he was being treated. The nanny wisely said to him, "There's only one person who can help you with this, and that is the guru from the village. There's nothing that a few white bones can't fix." And so she sent for the wise man to come. I believe he arrived in a black Buick with not a stitch of clothing on him, but a type of a loin cloth. He opened up a mat and he sat underneath a tree. And he asked for Bryce, "Boy, come and sit with me." Gathered around him were all the farm workers. They were holding their breath, mesmerized by this wise and knowledgeable man. He went through a procedure where he asked for 5 chickens, and he held them upside down one at a time, drew a circle in the sand with their beaks, and then placed the beak of the chicken in the middle of it, and the chicken promptly fell asleep. Everybody was amazed. When he had done this with the 5 chickens, he leant over and whispered in Bryce's ear, "They all think it's magic, but it's only a trick." He sent all the farm workers away to slaughter the chickens, to roast them for the dinner that evening. "Now," he said to Bryce when they were alone, "it's time to talk about the night water. I want you to close your eyes," he said, "for just a moment. Imagine that it is night," he said. "The moon of Africa is bright. You're standing on a ledge. Beneath you there are 3 waterfalls. The first one plunges into a pool. It sweeps over that pool, plunges into a second pool. It sweeps over that and down, plunges into a lake. And on the lake there are 10 black rocks leading to a beach of white sand. Do you see it?" The boy nodded that he did see it. And the medicine man said, "Then hear it." And there rushed through the boy the sound of water. There was water in his mind, water in his body, and water in his heart. There was water on both sides of him. There was water underneath him, and there was water above him. And in the thunder and crash of the water that was everywhere came the voice of Nkosi Kazi, the medicine man from the village. And the voice said to the boy, "You are a young warrior. You stand on the ledge above the waterfalls of the night. You have just killed your first lion. You wear a skirt of lion tails. You are worthy to be in the honor guard of Shaka himself. Now, here's what you must do, my little warrior. You must dive. When you hit the first pool, you will go to the bottom and you will count 3, 2, 1. On the way up, you'll be swept over that pool, and to the second pool, you'll go to the bottom. You will count 3, 2, 1 on the way up, and you will be swept over into the lake. You will jump on the first black rock and you will count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to the beach of white sand. Do you understand? The boy nodded that he did, and the medicine man said, "Then, my little warrior, dive." And in the imagination of his heart, the boy left the ledge. He hit the first pool, 3, 2, 1, swept over into the second pool, 3, 2, 1. Then he was swept over onto the lake, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, until he lay exhausted on the beach of white sand, with the thunder crash of the water inside him and outside him. Once again the voice of the medicine man returned, and it said, "You have crossed the night water. There is nothing more to be feared. If you ever need me, come to the ledge above the waterfalls of the night, and I will be there." Then the medicine man leaned down to the boy and said, "Open your eyes." The boy opened his eyes, and the medicine man said, "Now, the trick with the chickens." The little boy went back to school again, and from that day on, he never suffered any longer from night water. But the punishment continued with the other boys. The kangaroo court continued on a nightly basis. But every time he was blindfolded, Bryce took 3 deep breaths and found himself standing on the ledge of the 3 waterfalls. He could hear the voice of Nkosi Kazi in his ears. "You are a young warrior. You have just killed your first lion. You wear a skirt of lion tails. You are worthy enough to be in the honor guard of Shaka himself." It was then he knew that it was his outer shell to be punished and provoked, but inside was his real self, where his tears joined the tears of all the sad people of the earth to form the 3 waterfalls of the night. This is only the beginning of Bruce's story. The young boy finds that he is more than the things that oppress him. He finds a space within himself that is both transcendent and powerful. Jesus addressed the crowds by going to the same level as they were, because he could see the place within themselves that was far more than everything that oppressed them. Jesus looked at them, the crowds and everyone, and he said to them, "Blessed are you. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." But he wanted to reach in to their discomfort because these people were suffering. These people were oppressed. They were grieving. They were hungry. They were impoverished in spirit. But he reached down lower than that. "Blessed are you," he said to each one of them. "You are the salt of the earth, the light of the world." But he saw more than the salt and the light. He saw people who didn't know that they were blessed. People who didn't even know that they didn't know they were blessed. They were the poor in spirit. They lacked zest and passion. They had lost the energy to live. And yet he told them that there was still a blessedness in them. There was still a space of ledges and waterfalls of the night in each person. Jesus saw that they were mourning, and he said, "Still there is a blessedness in you." Grief feels like the whole of who we are. "I see in you," he said, "even a deeper blessedness." From that deeper blessedness, they could find a space where comfort would come. And sometimes Jesus saw people who were too meek. But even in their lack of assertiveness, he saw the blessedness there too, that waterfall space where they could go and be nourished. Christ-like vision can move things in us that we might miss within ourselves. Perhaps that's the message for us today, that he can see beyond all that might ail us. He can see the true potential within us. If we find ourselves no longer being the light and the salt of the earth, he believes in us still, because he knows that space within us, and he knows that it is a blessed space. Our wounds begin to define us, but using Christ-like vision, we can see that there is something deeper, a light that can be rekindled, a salt that will not lose its flavour, a blessedness that has the ability to push every negative situation and bring about newness, possibility, way beyond our wounds. Perhaps it is time for us to put away childish things. Perhaps it's time for us to change our vision of God from the God we knew in our childhood to something far greater. Perhaps it's time for us to change our vision of God that has been handed to us throughout generations, a God that is vindictive and violent and forceful and punishing. Surely In the heart of Christ, we see a completely different God who reaches into all suffering and finds the place within us that has the hope of resilience and in which He lives to ensure that we are fully blessed. He sees you in whatever circumstance you're in, and He blesses you within it.